Shirt show. All right, let's go.
Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Shirt man! All right! Episode 234 Shirt Show! We're talking with Tony from Palmprint in England. Let's go!
Hey.
Hey, cutie patootie.
Hey, love. You look very...
Lay on me. What am I?
I was just going to say you look a little stressed. Why?
Stressed? No,
yeah,
I'm good.
I feel stress energy.
That's just all the time, baby. It oozes out of me.
Okay. Well, no, I don't think that's true. I think that it's very rare you are stressed. And I picked up on a little bit.
I don't know about that. Maybe a little. I'm maybe more stressed than usual. But there's
Why?
always a layer in there.
Why? Talk to me. Let me hear it. Get it out. Let's get it out.
No, I'm good. I've had a day of. I think we talked about this before, but you know how like we get so in the zone of like our job of like being at the desk, and then sometimes you're just like, oh, I just want to be up and I want to like be in the shop and I want to do stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
I've had that day where like I'm up and I'm doing stuff and it feels good. And now that I'm in that zone, I'm seeing things all over the place where I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that project, or oh, I want to finish this thing or whatever. So I'm compiling a list right now of things to do between that week of Christmas and New Year's where like I'm the only one at the shop and I can like turn music on and just like fucking do like maintenance projects. So I was doing that right before I hopped on here. So
Okay.
I'm in that brain, I think.
Okay. Yeah. I feel that. I'm working on projects that are current, not that I'm going to do between Christmas and New Year. I've got a couple projects going that I like. And, well, I think I mentioned a couple of episodes ago, I mentioned one of our struggles was quality control, like the finishing part. And we had a meeting last week that we decided to expand our our pickup area so that we can also have a table there, and there's going to be this final check, that kind of goes through, and we need space for that. So
you mean like pickup as in the customer picking up?
Yeah, so we have a lot of that. I know that you ship a big chunk of your orders, but I would say 80% probably of our orders are picked up.
I like that though. I think that's a good idea even for shipping, to have like a spot of like a final check. Like boxes taped good, like shirt on top looks good. Like us, love us cards are on top.
Yeah.
Smart.
That's basically, that's kind of what's, well, it was a team effort. This is what we kind of arrived at, is that, well, one of the problems is there's just not enough space, to, that feeling. There's not enough space to do a lot of things. And then all of a sudden you're cramped and you make mistakes, or you rush things, or things get overlooked. So we're trying to create some space, and that involves getting rid of some stock. So we decided to get rid of all of our fleece. We had overstock of fleece that we could pull from if something went wrong, or whatever, but it hardly ever happens. And what's really funny is that we're like, okay, well, fine, we're going to sell every single fleece item for $3. Put it up front, and we started to like take them all out individually and tag them and hang them up and everything. Customer walks in 2 hours later to place an embroidery order and says, I'll take all of them. He bought every single one. And
you shouldn't have sold them for $3.
I know, but it's good because it's a win-win. It gets rid of them, and they've been sitting here a while.
I feel that.
And we get to stitch them. He didn't just buy them and take them. We're putting their logo on it.
You just charge $40 for the embroidery.
That's right. So we're going to win. No. He loses. No, just kidding. No, it's like a win-win. He's got a good sale. We got rid of stuff. And so we created more space so that we can then have more space. Yeah, we got more space. And so that's really good. And so we're still working on that. And then I almost don't know if we should talk about this in the show, or we could just talk about it now. I guess this is a big deal, because you know how you said, you're stuck at your desk and and you get out there and you discover things or whatever. And it's more than just that. It's more than just discovering things. It's actually going out and sometimes just finding a solution to a problem or just being involved in finding the solution. Maybe you don't even find the solution. Maybe you're just like,
that's half the fun.
yeah, trying to solve a
Brainstorm as a
puzzle.
group. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a puzzle and you're like, you're trying to figure it out, right? And you're doing it calmly and nobody's upset. I say that because that's important.
Right.
And so what our problem was is that we've got a customer that orders, it's one of our best customers, and one of the styles that they order, the tearaways, don't tear cleanly.
Yeah.
And so
that
there's
sucks.
remnants. There's leftover, not just leftover tag, but also leftover like threads, like little tiny threads. And you're like, oh my gosh. And so what we did last time, there were thousands of these, by the way, last time. And we tweezered, we shut down production and everybody was tweezering out these things off thousands of neck labels. And your hand starts to cramp and all that kind of stuff. And you're like, there's got to be a better way, got to be a better way. And so we're like, please never order that again. And we're just hoping. And so anyway, they ordered again and it's a back order from the previous. So we just have to fill it, right? And so everybody's like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? So I went, this is basically a plug for Discord. Got on Discord and I said, hey, this is happening. Anybody find a good solution to this? What do you do? And you know,
can I guess something real quick?
You know who the hero is? You can guess, but first, you know who the hero is?
Probably Majet.
Fucking Majet. Of course it is. Denial.
I totally just guessed that, but I knew he would have the answer.
Chris is, he has the answers. Almost.
I saw something a while ago. And I haven't tried this yet, but I think it was like a next level tag or something where you cut it like 90% of the way and then you pull and it pulls the strip out behind the threads.
Okay. Like a seam ripper?
No, you know what I'm saying? Like
scissors,
say there's the rectangle
cut.
tag, yeah, and you scissor cut like 90% of the way through the tag at the top. And then when you pull, it pulls that piece from behind the threads.
Okay.
Because you're getting them all at once.
I may try that. However,
I haven't tried it yet. I just wonder. Okay, so what was the solution?
It's too easy. It's too fucking easy. So
tell the customer no.
Nope, it's just like before. So everything's the same. You heat press, heat seal the neck label.
Yeah.
Tear the tag away, and there's the remnant. Heat gun 3 seconds.
Heat gun the remnant?
Just go, yeah, you heat gun right up to the seam or whatever. And everything, the threads and the plastic like tag just kind of shrink up that little bit into the thing and it's gone. It's perfect. Like you could never know. Like it's just absolutely perfect.
That's awesome. Does it work with, I'm guessing just those like almost like, I don't know how to describe it, like those new Gildan tags? They're kind of like you can rip them, but they're also plastic, but kind of fabric-y feeling.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm guessing they're like some kind of polyester.
Yeah. So the shirt that is in question here is a district shirt. It's like the private label Sanmar district.
Yeah, I think it's all the same tag.
The customer wants that shirt. Otherwise, we try and steer in a different direction. But that's what they want. And so it worked. Majet.
Could you
denial.
do
I want to do a proper thank you, though.
Could you do the heat gun in like almost in a rack thing where it's like facing down and all you got to do is grab the shirt and
like there's a stand. Yeah. Like you can put so it's always on. The heat gun is just on. Right.
And you just kind of wave it under.
Yeah. So we're doing. Yeah.
I love it.
We're going to set up 2 stations. It's so good. So, Chris at Denial, Majet.
I love
Majet,
that I guessed that.
I know. He's got a lot of those hacks though, you know?
Yeah. Well, he does a lot of streetwear stuff.
He does. And so he's the hero. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. You just saved us thousands of hours and hand cramps. Yeah. We'll put it that way. What else? What else is going on? So that's we don't have to talk about that later. When we already just talked about it. Shop hacks coming at you right from the get.
Right in the beginning. Yeah. Hell yeah.
It's impressive. Did I tell you I was learning Spanish?
No, why?
Going to Honduras, baby. You know that. You know I'm going there.
Yeah, but you're not going to learn Spanish before you go in like what, 2 weeks?
Watch me. Yeah. Yes, I am.
Don't they have
It's
those
like
in earpieces now where you can just speak and then they speak and the earpiece tells you exactly what they're saying?
I want to really know it, Dylan. I'm
Yeah,
really
okay.
learning Spanish.
I mean,
I'm
that's cool.
learning
I'm
it.
proud of you. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Do it for sure. It's awesome.
I'm pretty good at it already.
Okay.
I have a streak alive. I'm 4 day streak. I
Let's do
started
this
4 days
entire
ago.
episode in Spanish. Prove
I'm
it.
almost there. I'm almost there. We're close.
Okay. I'm gonna say I'm really proud of you. I hope
Mhm.
you conquer Spanish, but that literally sounds like torture to me. Like I would rather do bamboo shoots under my fingernails than learn another language.
You told me I should start a hobby. I need to get
I
a hobby.
fully, I'm,
You told
I'm,
me.
but that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to be positive. Learn Spanish. Me
Yeah,
personally, my mind, I don't like to read either. So like, volunteer for that shit.
yeah, I guess so. But I have a desire
A
because I'm going to
burning
be
desire.
traveling. Yeah, I'm going to learn Spanish. It's happening.
I hope
It'll be
they all
fun.
speak English to you. You're like,
Mhm.
fuck.
What else? What else? How is it? How's everything up there?
Good. Yesterday apparently was the last day of just being nice outside, and now it's
Mm,
going to be rainy and snowy. We're supposed to get snow on Friday.
yeah. Um, I think
Not that I want
it,
to talk about the weather, but I'm just saying it's kind of a downer.
well, don't look at it like that. Look at it like it's a season. You always tell me you like seasons.
I
And
do. I do.
yeah, you're cool if it's cold out. You're cool. You're cold if it's cold out.
Nice. I see what you did.
And and you like, starting a fire and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Putting on a coat.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
So
It's
it'll be
cozy.
fine. It'll be fine. Guess what? Then it'll be spring. And
Hmm. Spring is sprung.
the only bad part is that, you and I both like to walk. And
Yeah,
if
it's
it's,
that's what I meant. Yeah, yesterday I took a nice sunny walk, and now it's
yeah.
going to be a gray, slushy, cold walk.
Have I told you I have a treadmill at my apartment?
We talked about it.
Multiple treadmills. Like I can choose which one I want.
Oh, at the gym,
And
not like in your apartment,
yeah, not in my like unit,
right?
but on the second floor, it's got a special.
Do they have one of the Peloton ones?
Yeah, they have it all. No, they have actual bikes too, and rowing machines, and
I like
like
the
you.
look of the Peloton treadmill.
Do you mean like it how it has a screen and you can walk along
Yeah, it's just like
trails, or?
very minimalist. It's like
Um,
it looks
mhm.
good, sturdy, and just the way the layout is with the monitor. Like I just like the look of that treadmill over all the other ones.
um,
Because
it's
you go to like
not
Dick's and look at like Nordic Track, and it's like looks like a fucking like soundboard, and it's got like all these bells and whistles, and it's like I
too
don't want
many.
that. I just
Yeah,
want
I
to get
don't want
on
that
and
either.
walk.
Yeah, that's all I want to do mainly also. And the one I have is you just hold your watch, you go like this and you hold it next to it, and then it syncs like your
Oh,
workout
that's sweet.
to your watch. And
Oh yeah,
I put my phone up and I study Spanish as I walk.
perfect.
Yeah.
Love it.
hmm It's a good
I'm proud
life.
of you. I
Yeah.
agree.
I can do it and whenever I want. If it's raining or if it's snowing, if it's midnight, doesn't matter. I go down there.
It's the beauty of a treadmill.
I walk it off. I walk off all of my sorrows and
It's the best.
sadness.
No joking aside, walking is the fucking best for mental clarity.
Oh, I might just walk all night long. Like not
Yeah,
even
I've done that
just right on the treadmill. And
until
what's
you're
nice
ready to
about
go to
it,
bed.
what why I like walking on the treadmill is that, I do like walking outside, not trying to take anything away from being out in nature, but when you're in nature, you have to pay attention to nature. Like you have to say, oh, is this car going to run over me or whatever? Well, on the
Or like a
treadmill,
bobcat take you out.
yeah, a bear. Well, on
Right.
a treadmill, you just walk. There's, what I'm saying?
No
Like you
worries.
can,
Yeah.
yeah, you don't even have to think about
Headphones
it.
in, you don't have to worry about traffic.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So
Love it. Frank.
it all starts with the screen, and whether it's new stretches or restretches, Frank and his team do it the best. To find out more, go to graphicscreenfashion.com, FFFFF,
Rank.com.
or
Great fucking screens.com.
that's right.
Great fucking man.com.
Ooh, is it time for a fourth website?
If greatfuckingman.com isn't taken, someone needs to buy that shit.
Cleaning screens is no fun, but EasyWay makes it way more funner. Their line of eco-friendly chemicals will make reclaiming screens a whole lot easier. Check them out at easyway.com. EasyWay.
Is it easiest way?
It is. GraphX is the source for production Reggie. Production Reggie.
Yeah, production Reggie art.
Yeah, because you got to reg it out.
Yeah, you got to reg that art regardless. It's just Reggie.
We use them every single day. They can help with any size shop. So learn more at graphxsource.com. Oh my God, somebody bought my fucking chair.
What? Are you selling a chair?
I'm selling everything, baby. Like I gave away everything that I own, and then also there's a few things that I've sold. And I had this leather chair sitting up front now for a month, and I just look up at the monitor and it's walking out the front door.
Hell yeah. Look at that. Today's looking up.
Look at that.
Sold it for $3.
300 actually. Well, I don't know what they offered, but there was a sign on it for $300.
Handwritten in crayon.
We'll see. They may have offered $3 and we took it. I was just like, whatever. Get it out of here.
Get it out of here.
Choosing the right emulsion for your shop is complicated, and that's why we love Chromaline. Go to chromaline.com to watch Kev's vids, or contact him on Instagram at the Emulsion Guru and get the answers you definitely want and
want even more.
That was pitiful. I can't do
more wanter.
You want even more?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Good job.
Thanks.
You're bringing the heat today. Hold on, I gotta take a drink.
S&S has been our go-to apparel source since day one. Discover an extensive range of apparel that blends innovative design and unbeatable comfort. Their customer service and quality control are the best out there. Check them out at ssactivewear.com. And we just had a great interview with them. I don't know if it'll come out before or after this one, but good news from them. The weathered hues of Comfort Colors are inspired by nature, so it makes sense that their dye process will be made with respect for it too. The Pigment Pure process produces earth-friendly colors by using a third less water, taking 40% less process time, and consuming less energy, and requiring zero salt.
I like salt personally. I use the Himalayan. I like the Himalayan pink salt, like the sea salt stuff. So I would say to Gildan, sorry, maybe you should consider a little salt in there because it does taste, it is good.
Maybe they salt bay it on the way out.
Ooh.
Like as they're going into the box.
I like it. I like
Some crumbles. Yeah. That'd be good.
Okay.
ScreenPrintGPT.com not only is an extremely smart machine that helps us troubleshoot all things print, but this site also has a ton of really awesome tools on it, including a pricing calculator, embroidery stitch calculator, and a packing slip maker. And it also has an ink consumption calculator. It's all free. Go check it out. ScreenPrintGPT.com.
Tony's here. I don't know what we're talking about. You've had him on before. This is part 2.
Well, last time our buddy Tony was on, he kind of gave his story, and we dove a little bit into print process and efficiency with staffing on press, but we didn't really get to dive into like print techniques and stuff, and that's kind of what Tony's known for. So, hey, buddy.
Hey, guys.
Can you hear? Where are you?
Shitty hotel in the middle of nowhere. This is not my bedroom. Don't worry. It's not.
I was going to say, dude, you're very hotel-esque going on.
Yeah, I'm in a hotel with probably the worst Wi-Fi I've ever experienced. So bear with me. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll be fine. What time is it where you are?
7 p.m.
Oh,
well, you sound really good, by the way. You sound like I don't know what it is, but your voice is
sounds good. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I have a traveling podcast equipment that I take with me everywhere I go. So I got a little microphone, light.
Well, there you go.
Because we actually do a podcast anyway. So me and Danny at Flipping Sweet do a podcast. So everywhere I go, I've got all my equipment with me.
How is Danny?
I love it. Yeah, I was just going to say, how's Danny?
Danny's doing good. Yeah. Bought his first auto. Loving life. Still small, still just him, and he's got a screen cleaner now, but he's doing great. He's loving life.
Such a good dude.
Yeah,
So we got a great reception from your last episode. A lot of
good,
people
good,
loved
good.
it, and we thought, having you on again for part two, we could kind of dive more into. We kind of scratched the surface on like, efficiencies and all this other stuff, but we thought maybe, hey, let's get a little bit more into the technical stuff that you like to do.
Yeah,
So I'm going to kind of leave it up to you on what you want to discuss, but you kind of mentioned you wanted to talk about wet on wet a little bit.
yeah. Well, it's one of those. It's one of those taboo subjects. Depending on where you go in the world, some people say it's not possible. Some people say that it's a dying art or that it looks bad. So I sort of taken on a personal mission to re-educate and teach people wet on wet is good. When we started this whole process in the 80s, when I started, when it was all black and white, no color, then we were doing wet on wet 10 colors, no problem. But it was all about the decisions we made and the choices we made. So, and some of that we talked last time. We spoke last time about skill dilution.
Yeah.
Some of that has been lost. It's not a secret. It's just that it's been lost in translation over the years. The more
Are you
flashes we have, the less we need to understand about wet on wet.
right? And I think that's kind of been a lot of the push. I don't want to say in the recent years, it's just like buy a bigger press that you can put more flashes on so that you can kind of get away with doing it that way. What is your take on that? I guess if this is your mission, like, should we not go that route if we can, or should we try to do more wet on wet just skillfully?
I think we should do more wet on wet. I work sort of all over the world, as you know. So if I'm going where the education is low, let's say at Middle East or Far East, then they will buy a 56 palette machine. And the maximum number of colors they can print is 8. This is because it's print, flash, cool, print, flash, cool, print, flash, cool, which means that they do not need to educate their staff on mesh selection, blade selection, angle, pressure, travel, speed. Those things are not important. We can put any blade in there, any squeegee in there, any angle, any pressure, any mesh, because we're flashing it, so it doesn't actually matter. So it doesn't take long for that skill, that education to be lost, really. And it's not about you, but I don't know anywhere I can fit a 56 pallet machine in here
Yeah,
on a big
seriously.
long oval machine.
Yeah. Is that more like the pin system thing where they're picking the screen up and going to the next thing, or is that just like a giant oval? Like
No, it's a
auto?
giant oval made by either M&R or Rock or MHM, whichever brand you want. I'm sort of brand independent, so I work on every kind of press. It takes from that table printing mentality. So the table printing mentality has no upper limit of colours, but everything's
Right.
printed dry. Because if have you ever seen the table print and
Yeah,
things?
yeah,
And then we've got automatic flashes on rails which follow you around. So as you print, the flash is following you and drying the ink that you just put down. So it almost doesn't matter what you print next. And there's no limit because the staff is cheap. So we just keep printing until it's done.
It also
Hmm.
just seems like super inefficient with your consumables and your electric bill. If you've got 20 flashes going, like that's got to be expensive.
It is, yeah, it is. Plus, I mean, in the UK, we've got a limit of like 100 amps coming into a normal commercial building. And the more flashes you put on there, at 30 amps a flash, we're at 3 flashes and we're almost topping out on the power consumption that we've got. So yeah, I love the idea of printing with less flashes. It is possible. And the inks are designed to be printed wet on wet. The presses are designed to print wet on wet. The whole process is evolved around printing wet on wet. But we as operators have lost a little bit of the skill involved.
Yeah, I think also for us, it's also pre-press strategy, included in there. Because Dylan, do you remember when we had Dave Gardner on and he said that he designed a lot of his stuff wet on wet for Harley? And so that happened in the 80s and 90s even. And so we subcontract for that, right? And so every day we are running a press that's a complicated design that is wet on wet. Not all of their stuff is wet on wet. There's some stuff that's just white ink, or they're tried and true, stuff that's just like the typical 2 or 3 color things. But it's designed for wet on wet. We flash so we print the white and then we flash after that, and then everything else is wet on wet. And I guess what I'm saying is if you go into it with some pre-press strategy and then set it up with the correct print order, every once in a while we'll have to swap a 1 maybe or 2 screens because it just didn't. Maybe it's too dark and we got to brighten something up, And like I think Tony's gonna get ready to tell us the right screen, the right mesh count, screen tensions, ink. I don't know how opaque your ink is, the whole thing. I mean, it gets complicated, and we at first had we resisted it. We're like, no, this does not make sense. Of course, we stuck flashes in there. We're like, this cannot work. And we were like, we have to flash. And so we were doing it, and we have to match, right? We have to take a photo and match, and it wasn't matching. And so
No, because it's too nice, you're not getting a blend. You're getting
right.
a harsh change from one color to another, and the visual, the mock-up, the go by says, well, it should blend seamlessly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of it's pre-press. There is no real secret. People say to me, "What's the secret?" There is no secret. It's just a matter of understanding the fundamentals of what we do, and then applying. As you know, I travel everywhere, and I take it upon myself to try and make printers' lives easier. And by doing that, we've got to explore the fundamentals of how we're pushing through holes. And throughout all of that training, if you like, that I do, I never have any rules. There are no rules. I will never tell you to come in and always set your press on off contact number 1, or always run your squeegee on speed number 2. There are no rules because what we print on changes so goddamn frequently that we have to be intelligent enough to get feedback from the press and make an informed decision. When it comes to wet on wet, I have rules. This is the only place in all of my sort of visits to shops that I have rules. And one of the golden rules of wet on wet printing is my top colours. Whenever 2 top colours are touching on a white base, they must be minimum 230 mesh. So that means if we break that rule and we go to a 180 or 186 or whatever it is, the number you want to pick, I'm going to get problems. Can I deal with those problems? Yes, I've got 40 years of experience and I can probably deal with those problems. But if I don't want to deal with those problems, one of my golden rules is 2 colours touching on a top base, 230 minimum. If we're going to cheat upwards. So I'll go to 280, 305, no problem. If we're in Europe, that's a 90, a 110, and a 120. They're the sort of like the hard and fast rules. I've got shitloads of experience, but if you throw me a 10 color sequence job and you made one of them on a 156 and it's in the middle of the sequence, I don't have anything in my arsenal that can cope with that other than a flash.
The one thing that you sent me this graphic that I just thought was interesting was it kind of goes, you've got squeegee angles changing for every ink color.
Progressive. So
yeah.
the key word here is progressive. When we're setting up a wet on wet job, we make all these decisions before we get to press. Before we get anywhere close to press, I need to know what blade I'm using, what angle I'm using, and what mesh I'm using. So first of all, the meshes are all 230s or above. That's a non-negotiable. And then after that, I need to, if you saw a little box at the bottom, that's my little mantra. We start hard and we finish soft, just like in life.
I love that. I wasn't going to say anything, but yeah.
So the graphic that we're talking about is all about protecting thy neighbor. So the whole decision-making process on what blade I should use, what angle I should use, is based around not how much ink I want to push through the mesh, but how I protect the previous color. I have to try and protect that previous color. So my mantra is start hard, finish soft. So we start with a hard blade in the first color after the base. We put our base down and we use whatever mesh, whatever blade we need to make it look pretty. And our experience tells us, if it's a toned raster base, we're going to use a 156 thin thread with a 65, 90, 65, whatever it is. We look at the design, we make an informed decision of that's what we're going to use to make it look pretty. Then we flash it. As soon as we flash it, we're printing onto dry, shiny plastic. Printing onto dry, shiny plastic, we've got this ink that's going to sit there, and it sits there beautifully until the next color comes along and pushes down on it, steps on it. When the next color steps on it, it affects it, it changes it, it moves it. It either spreads it or it does the granny's kiss noise, which is and it rips it off. How we change and affect that is down to our blade choice and our angle choice. So I use the 5 to 30 degrees.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure M&R does 5 to 20 or 25. But if you look on the side, you'll see those little notches. We can't print on 0. We can print on 5. So 5 gives us minimum amount of ink, but the most aggression. Key word here is aggression. We're pressing down really hard, really straight with a hard blade. I use the hardest blade and the straightest angle first. So my first color after the base is white. Why? Because it can't affect anything. I'm printing onto a dry ink. You can't rip it off. You can't smudge it. You can't bleed it. You can't
Is that
push it.
dictated by the amount of surface area that the ink is going to be? So say it's a design where it's very spot color, or is this just like a sim process?
Color order is subjective to design. So color order in my head is lightest color to darkest color, smallest area to largest area. So those two can be conflicting. It could be that my largest area is my lightest color. So it's design dependent. Why do I pick my lightest colors first? Because if they're going to rip off, if they're going to lose 10% of their opacity, I don't notice on a cream or a gray as much as I do on a dark blue or a dark red.
Yeah.
So that's why I pick my lightest to darkest. Smallest area to largest area is logical. Big, sticky, large, open area of ink is going to pull off under the next screens. So it's using intelligence, again, earned over years of printing it badly, that, hang on, I know that red's going to be an absolute nightmare. There's no way I'm putting it first. I'm going to have to put it further down the area. And then we've got the spot process, the sim process, which the designer has dictated the color order. When the designer dictates the color order, let's say we want an orange, but we haven't got an orange, we're using a mixture of yellow and red.
Right.
If we do 100% yellow with a 50% red over the top, we're going to get a beautiful orange, mid-orange, like 021. If we do that the other way around and we get 100% yellow over the top of a 50% red, we're going to get a yellow because it's going to hide that red. So we have to take note of the way the channels are separated in Photoshop and follow that order, despite it being, that's a chuffing big area of yellow and I don't want it there.
Which is nice when you get a printer who turns into a separator and knows that process. Because they need to work together on that. You can't just be a graphic designer turned separator.
No,
I mean you can. It's just
I guess unless you have a lot of experience going out and looking at results. If you have the opportunity, if you're in house, let's say, and you can go step at the end of the dryer and see what you've done, and then tweak it along the way, and you have lots of experience doing that. Well, maybe you can learn it. My question, Tony, is that do you notice after saturation that when you step on a color, you're picking up less. And so, let's say you're setting up this job and you're looking at it and you've only ran 4 or 5 test prints, it's going to look way different than after your 100th shirt because, in our experience anyway, because you have this saturation on the back of screens and you're not picking up as much anymore. Do you notice that? What are your thoughts on initial like test print, approval, final, and then 1,000 shirts in type of thing.
So using the techniques that I explain with the hard blade to the soft blade and the progressive angles, I can pretty much guarantee that my 10th print looks exactly the same as my 1,000th print. The only time it's going to look different is if I do clean underneath the screens and get rid of that deposit. I actually want and encourage that small amount of deposit. But then this leads into another sort of like huge area of which ink range are we using? You know, there are ink ranges out there that are what you might call first and second generation. And right now we're on third generation inks. And this is to do with the method that the inks are made. So go right back. I used to use Cericol ink. And Cericol ink was the only ink in the UK that was opaque. It was bright. It was beautiful. It was one hit. We could print it on a manual or an automatic. But after about 200 prints, you got a build-up underneath the screen that would block the image and also rip off the previous color. And then this fancy American company turned up called Wilflex and said, hey, we've got a solution for that. It's called Genesis. And we guarantee you 10,000 prints, no build-up. We were like, does that work? That can't work. We're used to scraping off the ink underneath the side of the screens. And so along comes this ink. And we're like, what did you do? What's the magic formula? And basically they processed it again. They milled it again to make the particles smaller. Is it more expensive? Yeah, it was 30% more expensive than the Cericol ink. But it was worth it because my press didn't stop all day. So this third generation of ink, which has been milled to make the particles smaller, pretty much guarantees that the underneath of the screen doesn't change, doesn't build up, doesn't get any worse, doesn't get any better. It just stays as it is. Now, if I swap that ink out for a first generation ink that's only milled once, I can guarantee you after 200, 300 prints, I'm going to have to look at my original sample and go, whoa, we need to stop and wash this.
Does some of that have to do too with screen tension? As far as like if you have a less tension screen, you're getting a little bit more travel and ghosting. And
screen tension for me, I have this debate often. So higher screen tension, better print, unmistakably. No, you won't find anybody in the industry that doesn't argue that. The higher you get that tension, the better the print, the better the pick off, the better the pull afterwards, the release, the shear of the ink. Get as technical as you want with it, but higher tension is better. So therefore, Newman roller, which you can get up to 40, 50 newtons on, are a better tool to use. But God, the cost of the maintenance. I call Newman roller frames a really pretty girlfriend. They're nice to have, but hard to keep. They're high maintenance. So you have to really keep working at them to keep them high maintenance. So we come back to statics. I love statics. We get the tension at about 30 when it's delivered. It loses about 3%, about 10%, about 3 newtons, and it stays stable. So for me, as long as the tension's within that operating window, for me, between 20 and 27, I'm going to get pretty much the same results around. Now, if one of those is below my cutoff point's 18. If I measure a screen and it's 18, I put a knife through it. There's no point even putting it near the press. If one of those is below what I would call an operating range, then yeah, it has to go, and it causes me extra pick-off. It causes me misregistration. It causes me bad clearing, poor edges. So yes, if one of them's low tension, it will cause me pick off, but it will also cause me a lot of other problems.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying static frames are more like a solid 6 or a 7 with a good personality?
Absolutely, yeah.
One you can bring home to mom.
Definitely take a static home to meet your mom. Yeah, definitely.
Right. That's what we need to change Frank's slogan to, is good enough to take home to mom.
Yeah, that's it.
And I heard you mention thin thread earlier, and I know you were referring to your underbase and 156 thin thread for your underbase. What about for your top colors? Are you also using thin thread on those U230s, and above, or standard?
Controversially, no. And this comes down to, what does thin thread do? It gives me more ink. Yeah, because there's more open area and I can push ink through holes, not through threads. So therefore, I've got more opportunity to put ink down. Well, a lot of what I'm trying to do is control the amount of ink that I'm putting down. And one of the preconceptions that I try and get into people is, I want a bright yellow. Okay, so make a bright base. Don't try and put shitloads of yellow down on a poor base. Make a good base. If you make a good base, you'll have a good yellow, even through a thin, a 230 mesh. You don't need to have too much ink. If we say that a 230 normal thread is my sort of like lowest that I'll go, or as low as I'll go on a top color, we swap that for a 230 thin thread, I've automatically got about 30% more ink that I've got to deal with. And the whole point of my whole approach is trying not to deal with too much ink. I don't want a lot of ink. I have a lot of ink there. It's going to rip off. It's going to pick. It's going to spread. So for me, thin thread is superb, probably 157 and below. If I'm using a mesh counter above 157, I actually don't want a lot of ink.
I mean that makes sense. Now I
Yeah,
kind of want to
I
play
know.
with it.
I love the idea of having thin thread in everything, not having the choice between thin thread and normal thread, because it's another variable we have to choose from. But we picked a 230, a 280, or a 305 for its ability to not put a lot of ink down. So I don't want to confuse that with having an open mesh, which is going to put a lot of ink down. So if I was in a shot with all thin thread, my 230 rule would probably step up to 280.
I see.
Because that would give me that sort of that extra reduction in ink passing through the holes.
But also, I think that we have to take this into consideration, and that is, by the time you are putting top colors, on down the line, your angles are greater because and your squeegees are softer, and so you're putting down more ink inherently. And so I think that what's important is that we distinguish between wet on wet and then just normal printing, because so we have thin thread 230s and thin thread 180s only. We don't have any standard. But I guess that's because our approach isn't always wet on wet. It's just for this one specific customer. And so we would have to retool everything. In other words, if we went to standard on our 230, for example, because if you just set it up how we have it right now, it wouldn't be enough. Yeah, you're right. Our underbase needs to be strong. But I think that's what we would have to change, I guess. We would have to change our underbase and make it stronger, because we're used to, I guess we're used to putting down more top color ink than you are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, to make it look brighter. Yeah.
Make it look brighter, because we're not wet on wet. We actually are flashing in there, but we don't have to be. We can stop flashing as much. We had a job yesterday that was one of those that I think it was about 10 color. It was on our 14 color press. There was hardly any room on it. 3 flashes. It was t-shirts and hoodies, which was always fun. And
that was a nightmare.
It ended up when we went to the hoodies, it spun 5 times. Because we had to preheat the hoodie first, and then the reason why it spun 5 times, we could have taken 2 of them off apparently. But when we had it all set up and registered is when we had to change the print order on a couple. And if you've ever done that, you're like, oh God, I don't want to take screens down and reset this thing back up. I'd rather just spin an extra,
Spin it again. Yep.
Yeah. And so we were stuck.
It's an assessment of time. We look at it and go, okay, to reset that's going to take me 25 minutes. To send it around twice on the 30 hoodies, it's going to cost me 8 minutes. So it's a much more efficient use of time to spin it around.
Yeah. So we took notes because it'll probably reorder, and we put it in Monday, and so, hey, next time this happens, we set it up different and we save a spin or 2. But why was I saying that? Oh, it's just, it gets, we pre-pressed, engineered that with 3 flashes and with our squeegees and our squeegee angles and everything that we're used to, I should say. But if we looked at it and we took a different approach and we said, we're going to print a few of these colors wet on wet, actually. And here's how we're going to achieve that. It was a black, by the way, black t-shirt, black hoodies. And so here's how we're going to achieve that. I think that it would take some time. You know what I'm saying? Like you would actually have to fly here from the UK and retrain us for a month or whatever to say, hey, here's the new as standard operating procedure for this type of job, I guess. You know what I'm saying? So it would take some time. And
I know what you're saying.
And actually you'd be butting some heads here. It'd be like our production manager or the press op would be like, wait, what are you talking about? No way. You know?
Kyle would get in a knife fight with you.
That's my job.
Kyle would probably pull a knife on you, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you've had people
before.
Yeah.
I've been threatened before. Yeah.
Like, get out of my shop. Get out of here. Like,
yeah. It's I describe my job as I have to have the ability to walk into a parent's house, sit the parents down and tell them that they have the ugliest kids I've ever seen in my life, and I have to be able to get out alive. So when I walk into a shop and I have to try to sort of dismantle how we're doing things and then rebuild it again, it is something that, I would have hated someone coming into my shop and doing that. Because I'm fiercely protective of, this is mine. Don't mess with this. But if we can explain it and prove it, once we prove it, I famously have done lots of jobs where, this is a job we always do, and it always rips. It's always a nightmare. The noise is horrendous from the wetting, pulling, and sticking. And then we change a few things and change a few parameters, so we run it, and the operator's like, it's not making the noise. It's running perfectly. It's not spreading. This one looks like the first one. Oh shit! Maybe it does work. And sometimes you have to proof is in the pudding, basically.
Tony, with that being said, last time we talked, and you and Andy kind of just went into it a little bit with the spins, is real life versus the fucking salesman who comes in and is like, you should do it this way. You should never spin more than one time. Blah 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 blah. Be real for a second, and like that smacking of the wet on wet ink, like, is that okay sometimes? Is that something that if you hear that at all, it's a fucking no-no? Like, what would you tweak if you saw a screen that was doing that to get it to not do that necessarily?
So quite regularly that happens. From the real life thing, if the first thing I'd look at is the mesh count. Did somebody cheat on the mesh count? Real world is, I want all these top colors on 230s. Okay. We go to the screen room. He hasn't fucking got any. He hasn't got any 230s, but he's got a 186. Well, that'll be okay for the yellow because we need it bright anyway. So he puts it on the 186. Nobody realizes it's third in the progression and it's ripping off every time. So the first thing I look at is it on the mesh count we wanted? Now, if it isn't, I'm faced with a real life decision. How many pieces is this? It's 100 pieces. Right.
I love that you said that because that's every real printer's thing. Like when they bring me something in and they're like, should we tweak this? My first question is usually, how many shirts?
How many pieces? Yeah.
Like if it's 20 pieces, I'm like, how do we fucking make this work to get this job done?
Spin it. Keep spinning it until it looks pretty.
So I love that you said that. Yeah, because that's always.
That's what I do. I look at it and go, right, how many pieces is this? And the reason I asked the question is it's a time trade-off, a time efficiency. Right, if this is 1,000 pieces, right, I've got in my head 20 minutes to remake the screen, set it back up again. I don't mind spending the 20 minutes on 1,000 pieces. If it's 20 pieces or 50 pieces or 100 pieces, spinning it round adds 6 minutes to the total job. Jesus, it took you 4 minutes to come walk over here and ask me the question. So, yeah, absolutely, spin it. It's a better use of the time, a more efficient use of the time, and it solves the problem. As long as we understand. So this category falls into double stroke, extra flash, and multi-print or revolver mode. Is it cheating? No, it isn't. I'm not going to stand here and say I've never used multi-print. Jesus, it's got me out of some huge holes. So has double stroking. And so as bringing a flash from anywhere or getting a guy with a heat gun to stand there. I've done that just to try and solve the problem. As long as we understand what the problem was. Right. So as long as we understand that the problem came from I cheated on the mesh count. As long as I understand that, then I don't mind sending it round twice because it's a better use of the time. the problem occurs when double stroke, multi-print, revolver mode, extra flashes become the default mode.
Right. I mean, yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. It's just hard when you have certain shops that don't know, they don't know what they don't know. Like they don't know what the problem is. They don't know the TP method of, 2:30 or nothing or go home.
Yeah.
Um, I guess I'm just wondering, like, what would be the first thing you would say to somebody that's doing that stuff is like, just let's go back to basics and start with the screens and
Yeah. So
what squeegee blades do you have and all this other stuff?
if we've got a 10 color job running and we've only got one flash available, or let's say we've got two flashes available. So we've got base flash, and now I've got 9 colors. So I'm going to go 4 and 5, 4 and flash, and then 5 and off. Then if I'm walking past it and I can hear the noise of the rip, the first thing I want to look for is a mesh count. Now, if the mesh counts are all 230s, the next thing I'm going to look for is the blades. Did we do start hard, finish soft? And if there's a hard blade in number 5, I know exactly what's causing it. Change that blade out. Do I want to clean 2 extra squeegee blades? No, I don't want to clean extra squeegee blades. But if I put a medium blade in there, so I've got the progression to go, I've got 4 steps to go from hard to soft. Well, I'm going to go hard, medium, medium, soft, soft. And if I've broken that progression, then I know exactly what's causing that rip off. Now, if I've stuck to the 230s and I've stuck to the blade progression and I'm still getting that noise, that rip off, that pick, then I'm going to look at how aggressively I'm pushing down on those colors because it prints beautifully. It's only after the second color's stepped on it that it looks shit. So I'm going to look at, right, what pressure am I using? On a bar scale, I can't remember the PSI for the life in me, but on the bar, we've got a range from like 6 to 3 where plastisol will print. Now, if I'm using 6, could I take it down to 5 and it still print? Yeah. Can I take it down to 4 and it still print? Yeah. Can I take it down to 3 and it still print? No. Okay, so I'm at 4. Now I'm not pressing as aggressively. My off contact is set with a peel, another important thing. So the beginning of the print stroke, my off contact is higher than my end of my print stroke because I want the natural tension of the screen to peel and lift up. I don't want the screen to release from the ink as either the tables drop or the heads lift, depending on which press you're on. I want it to release as it prints. And the best way to do that is to have a screen like that, higher at the beginning of the print stroke and lower at the end of the print stroke.
What would you say to
tension of the screen?
What would you say to people who have autos that don't have front and rear individual head off contact adjustments? Because like one of our we have a Sportsman and it's just a central off contact. I suppose you could cheat somehow in your screen frame holder.
Put a quarter under the front.
Pennies and quarters. Yeah. 100%.
You shim it like, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
But
I need to have that peel. I need to have that release. There's nothing worse than when on the Sportsman when the tables drop and it's pulling the ink. You almost get a circle result in the middle from where it's dropped and released because it hasn't released as it's printed.
Right.
So would you say to do like on the G3, I could do I don't know the number, say a 1 in the or a 2 in the front and a 1 in the back or something like that? Or
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so it's
something like that. Again, there's no magic number, there's no magic formula. The only hard and fast rule I have is the 230 rule, and then we go from hard to soft. They're the only rule, and that's more of a guidance than a rule. So when it comes to off contact, we've got to look at it and go, right, I just want this at least 2/4 width at the front and 1/4 width at the back away from the shirt. I can get that, and then with the central off contact, as I go from tees to sweats, I can move it, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
but it has to release as it prints.
Is there anything else with wet on wet that we didn't cover?
Artwork. So the artwork has to be good. It has to be
I,
done by
I
someone.
wanted you to just stop right there.
Okay.
Artwork needs to be good, and that's it.
That's it, done, yeah. Um, there's a guy who I was talking about artwork with, and he used these phrases, and I can never use them with a serious face ever again. Because he mentioned a cellar, and it's bleed, choke, and trap. I know, yeah, but when you see them in a different light, you're like, oh my God, now I can't think of them differently. But bleed, choke, and trap are really super important when we come to wet on wet. Understanding what each one of those terms and phrases mean. And then when we throw the extra word in, I'm sure you guys got a word for this. My word is gutter.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah,
you
we
use
use
a gutter where two colours touch?
yeah, we
Yeah.
use gutter.
Gutters. Yeah, gutter, trap, reverse trap, trough, furrow. I've heard it called everything. But where two colours touch, I need to have a gap underneath that the ink falls into. So the theory for this is back in the early days when we were creating artwork from Rubylith, cameras, Sharpies, whatever we could get our hands on, we would have the black or the last colour bleed over all the touching colours and hide any misregistration. And we would use it to cover, hide, and disguise any bad artwork. Well, those days are gone. We've got computers that will but register two colours absolutely perfectly. And that's what we want on our top colours. We don't want them to bleed into each other. But underneath those, on the base, we need to have a gutter for those two colours to fall into. If not on the print, but on the preceding colour, which pushes down. Our base white, we're putting a really good base white. We cover all the fibres, we've done everything right. We've got the tension right, we've got the blade right. It's printing beautifully. Minimum pressure, minimum travel. And then we flash it. What we've got is a big sheet of shiny plastic. And then we're going to put a piece of wet ink on there. And it sits beautifully until another screen comes along, presses down on it with 6 bar, and it squashes it along that plastic. And it can only stop running when it comes to the edge. So if it comes to the edge, on the edge of the design, it's perfect because that's what we want. We want to hide the white. But if it comes to the edge where a red and a yellow meet, you're going to get an orange where they meet, where they mix. And I don't want that. So to encourage those to stay sharp, I use a gutter. The controversial thing about gutters is, will the customer see it? What will the customer say when he sees like a dark line between the red and the yellow? And that's one to push back to customer service, really, into explaining to the customer, look, if you want a nice, crisp, defined line between where these two colours meet, especially on vector artwork, then I'm going to have to put a gutter, a
How
trap.
big would you recommend that gutter to be?
That's the golden question everybody asks me. So I like 0.35 points. Now, that's for a shop where their exposure system is dialed in, their developing system is dialed in, and their press is dialed in. The worse the press, the exposure, and the film output system is, the bigger that number gets. So I've been in shops where that distance is 1 full point. Don't forget, 1 full point is the gutter. So there's only half a point of overlap on each color because they meet in the middle. So if I'm on a manual with fluorescent tubes and laser vellum, I'm going to use a full point to try and get away with and hide as much as I can. If I'm on a LTS with a Zentner developing system and a high quality press, then I'm going to go down as 0.35 point.
Okay.
But can you hold that? That's the key. Can you hold it? Because you've got to hold a reverse trap, which means if you overexpose, you're going to make it bigger. If you underexpose, it doesn't get enough and you wash it away and you're developing. So you've got to have your exposure time dialed perfectly in.
Andy, do you have any more that you want to add on the wet on wet part, or do we want to move on?
I only had maybe one more on the wet on wet, and we didn't really ever cover it. And I think in my head, it matters. So what about squeegee speed?
So I have six variables. Okay, there are six variables in pushing ink through holes: mesh, blade, angle, pressure, travel, and speed. Mesh is the biggest contributor. We're talking about a 30% contributor of how much we can change the ink, how much more ink we can put down, or how little ink we can put down. By changing the mesh, I can change that amount of ink by about 30%. As we come down, we get like a 10, a 15, a 20 on all the others. Right at the bottom is speed. My evaluation, my number that I put onto speed as a contributor to how much ink I push through the holes is 2%. I think it's a contributor, it makes a difference, but only plus or minus 2% of the ink that we push through the screens.
Okay, but what about when you step on colors? Does it matter how long you're stepping on it? If you're trying to go, because so sometimes to solve an issue on press, when let's say you had some of that peel, that noise you hear, the peel, the stick, a lot of times for us anyway, it's because it's after a flash and it seems like the plastisol is a little too hot, and we cheat the flood and we slow the flood down to give it a little more time to cool. But then also I'm speeding up my squeegee so I'm not stepping on it as long. I'm trying to get off it really fast. So instead of just how much ink and think of it in terms of how much ink I'm putting down, also how long am I stepping on it? Does it matter to you?
Funny that you said fast because I think we've done it the opposite, where if it's sticking a little bit, we would go slower so it had more time to come off to release before we were done with
Oh,
it.
interesting. Okay.
So yeah, this goes back to I would look at the other factors first. So first of all, do I have that peel? Is that happening? And the back of the screen can give us loads of information as we watch it print, and that would tell me which one of my factors I think is out. Now, it could be that my squeegee blade was too hard or my angle was too straight. And one of the sort of the cheat solutions is to speed it up so it's not touching for as much. But probably a better solution would be to look at and evaluate, did I follow the hard to soft rule? Is the mesh count right? Is my off contact slightly higher at the beginning of the print stroke? And I would gamble that one of those solutions would be a better fix. But this is screen printing. There are a million ways to solve one problem, and there isn't a right and wrong way. There's a way that works for you in your shop on that day. And if speeding it up works, yeah, it worked. But it was probably if we delve a little deeper, we'll probably go, do you know what? If I could just push that off contact up a little bit more, that probably would have solved it as well.
Sure.
Good question.
Yeah, it's one of those where you're on press and you're like, man, why is it doing that? And you want to go mess with, like you said, you had six variables, and you want to change, you want to do what's going to work right now so we can get this job off press. And
yeah, which one do I hit first?
Yeah,
I have a list that I work through. So for me, it's time based. So it might be that mesh is wrong, but that mesh is going to take me too long to change. So I'll look at the blade. The blade's wrong. Okay, I'm now going to have to wash two blades. I don't want to wash one blade, let alone two. But that's probably my next best step, is to change the blade. Now, if I haven't got a blade, or I'm already at the limit of it, then I'm going to go down the list of travel and pressure. Two basically different things. You know the difference between travel and pressure? On the M&R, it's the black turning knobs. That's travel. That's how far the squeegee moves from its resting place to its printing place. And then we've got pressure, which is the actual force. If you were holding a squeegee in your hand, then the travel would be the extension of your elbow. How far can your elbow extend?
Well, tell me.
But the pressure would be your muscle.
Talk to me about travel. What does that do? What effect does that have on a print?
So, what press do you have? Do you have M&Rs?
Yeah, M&R.
Yeah, so a lot of in the UK and Europe, the M&R installation techs would lock off the travel and say, you don't need to worry about that. Don't worry your pretty little head about that. I've set that and I've
Just
locked
use
it.
just use the air
Just
pressure.
use air pressure.
Yeah, yeah.
That's taking away one of your variables. And I do pull up the M&R install text. And some of this revolves around the pallet height not being perfect. So I think the official M&R description of those cylinders is shock absorbers. Well, that's not quite true. They have an extension. So when you change, you are changing the stop position. When the cylinder is not activated, so the squeegee is in the air and the flood is contacting the screen, and then when it chops, you have an extension of cylinder. That rod, that cylinder, that shaft is around about 1.5 inches. That's the extent of your travel. That's how far you can push the squeegee down. You have the ability to limit that to maybe 1.25 inches or maybe 1 inch so that you're not pushing down as far, but you're still using 6 bar of pressure to make that movement, to travel that distance. Make sense?
Have you ever thought about that,
Yeah.
Dylan?
Yeah, I mean, to a degree, Tony said it right though. I mean, I feel like it's one of those things where some shops mess with them, some shops don't. It's almost like the push versus pull discussion of like, do we zero these out and leave
No,
them
there's no
alone
discussion
and only
there.
gauge with the thing? Or well, I know, but I'm just saying, like, industry wise, it's kind of one of those things of like, do you fuck with them or not? So,
Absolutely fuck with them. That's what they're there for.
right. I
They're
mean,
there to be fucked with.
we have before, and then certain people. I think it's press operator where they're like, I don't know.
I've set that, don't touch it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Plus,
I
if you
don't.
think about the angle, so let's think about the angle. This is a really bad visual, but if my angle is 5 degrees and my screen is here, if I change my angle to 20 degrees because I'm putting puff through a big open screen, I go like that. Now, automatically, I've reduced the travel distance. I need to travel more because I was here in contact. Now I'm here. So I need to move more. So if I increase my angle, I need to adjust my travel accordingly because now I need to extend that shaft so that my squeegee actually touches the shirt.
Yeah.
So the two go hand in hand. It has to be adjustable.
I guess that's why when you said at install, it's maxed, and so that it chops it meets it either way with enough pressure with the right pressure, it's going to hit.
Yeah.
And so we generally don't adjust ours. We, if anything, the only thing we adjust is our flood. We adjust flood more because I see a flood. I don't know if this happens on any of your presses, but the flood kind of walks its way down and increases pressure over time. And
Yeah. Just the vibration.
our travel, I should say, with vibration increases. It'll be more less travel over time. And so you'd be like, why is this? I don't get it. Why is when I flood, like I'm getting a ghost or something? It's because it's flooding so hard with so much pressure, it's pushing
Ink through
through.
the screen.
Yeah, so you have to back it down. And so we do adjust our flood more, but we hardly ever adjust our squeegee. Now we are going
It's one of those 6 tools that you can play with. So when we're talking about how aggressively we're pushing down on that wet ink that's picking up, we can travel that far and with the force of a 5-year-old weakling, or we can travel the same distance with the force of a 200-pound football player, but the traveling the distance is the same. So then we can also do the opposite. We can not travel as far with the same force. So travel and pressure are 2 completely separate, different things. And if we're pressing down so hard and let's say we take the pressure, the air pressure to 4 and it's still ripping off. We take it to 3 and it doesn't print, but it's still ripping off. Well, I want something in the middle of there. And what we usually find is that's where the travel comes in. depending on which machine you were taught on first or which one you used first, depends on which one of those two you go to first. I'm from, M&R, SIAS, all those ones, TAS, everything before that. So I tend to go straight to the travel, which is the black wheels, because they were always open on my press, and very rarely move the air pressure because I know I've only got a small window of air pressure.
Right. And actually, the very first press I had didn't have an air pressure adjustment. You
No,
actually
it was all full on. Yeah.
it was all travel. Yeah, it was full on. And then it was all about the travel. That's how you dictated pressure. There wasn't
Yeah.
a universal pressure dial.
No, and you were looking for the bend on the squeegee. How much is the squeegee bending? Because if I've got too much travel on, the squeegee comes down so far that I lose the clean edge of the blade, and I'm printing with the flat of the squeegee, and that's no good for anybody. So it's adjusting that point where it prints perfectly, but that does change with angle.
This is very profound, Tony. I think
Thank
that
you.
Tony, as a consultant though, do you have something on like website or anything where it's like a troubleshooting guide when it comes to all those variables for any printing, even wet on wet, but also any kind of, I don't know.
Yeah. On my
Copy.
website, there is a live interactive graphics tool which has those 6 sliders on, and you can pick up a slider and see what happens to the graphic on the right hand side. So on my website, if you choose the mesh count of a 110, you can see that the graphic is super bright. And if you slide that over towards a 230, the graphic will dull. And then if you change the angle that you're printing with, you will see how the detail starts to lose. As printers, we're in an eternal battle between the forces of power or opacity and detail. You cannot have both. If you want more power, you pay for it with detail. If you want more detail, you pay for it with power. So on my website is an interactive slider where you can see in real time the effects of what happens if I change the mesh. What happens to my print? What happens if I change the pressure? And you can see the detail get worse or better. And that's an evolution of my consulting times, because I've been doing this nearly 6 years. And when I first started, I got a piece of ProPal, piece of palette paper, cut it off, stuck it on the wall, got a Sharpie, and tried to explain to people those 6 variables in my really, really bad drawing style. And that led to, well, this looks like a 4-year-old has drawn this with their eyes closed. So I'll try and do it in Illustrator. I'm okay with Illustrator. So I drew a graphic in Illustrator with the sliders, but it still required me to open Illustrator to remove the sliders. And then it's evolved now into a live interactive one on my website.
And what's the website?
www.palmprintuk.com.
Perfect.
Basically, it's hidden behind a private page. So sign up for an account, which is free, and then you get access to that fundamentals webpage and a newsletter every month.
Perfect. Andy?
now we have some over-unders, and I wrote them not realizing that you're in the UK and don't really celebrate Thanksgiving, but we'll have to.
I've celebrated 4 so far.
Okay,
in
well,
the,
there you go.
In the US. In the US.
Well, perfect then. Yeah, so it's time
And you
for
realize
over-unders.
it's our best holiday.
Yeah, I've become to understand that, but it's not the best place to be a Brit though. But yeah, I 4th of July I try and avoid, and Thanksgiving I seem to just by default always be in the US at Thanksgiving. And I've been really fortunate to be at families' homes as well, which is super. It's really sort of humbling to be in somebody's home at Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, cool. This is perfect then. I have 3 over-unders. They're all related to Thanksgiving. So you just let me know if you think they're overrated, underrated, or properly rated. The first one is Black Friday.
Black Friday, overrated.
God, I hate it so much.
Completely and utterly overrated.
It's so dumb.
It's just a commercial thing that people believe that they've got to wait until Black Friday to buy. And if you're really sensible about it, you don't really need it on that day. Just buy it when you need it.
Yeah, I actually just had this conversation with Christina the other day because I bought my son's Christmas present, and it was kind of like, oh, well, that probably would have been cheaper on Black Friday. And I'm like, well, also, I knew I could get it now, and I don't want to wait until
Yeah.
it's on sale and then find out it's all sold out and it's gone, and then I can't get it in time for Christmas. And this, I was like, I'd just rather pay the whatever difference, say it's $20 difference now, to know I'm going to get it. It's here and done, than to deal with all this other bullshit. And I've gone out
It's
on Black
definitely a
Friday
testicle
one
thing.
time and never again. It was the
No,
worst thing ever.
I can't do it.
Just buy it now. Just
And
don't.
and also it's turned into Thursday. You know, like
How many Black
evenings.
Fridays are there?
There's actually a Thursday night now, like because stores are
Yeah.
try to beat the other stores or open before the other ones or whatever, and people go after dinner and go fucking buy stuff. It's crazy. All right. Yeah, I think we all agree. Overrated. Number
But
two.
it is underrated though to see like 2 days later the news stories of all the like stabbings and mobbings and like people fighting each other over a TV.
That's the good part.
Is that staged? I don't think that happens. That can't happen.
Definitely does.
You ready for number two?
Hmm.
Yep.
Turkey for Thanksgiving.
Oh fuck, God, I get tingles
Completely
all
and
over.
utterly underrated.
Yeah, that's the best thing. It's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
I'd rather have
Hmm.
more turkey than like desserts and pies, hands
Stuffing,
down.
potatoes.
Yeah, like turkey stuffing, mashed potatoes. I would rather have a whole nother plate of that than to have like pie or whatever afterwards. I mean, I like pie, but like turkey, mashed potatoes, and gravy fresh on
So
Thanksgiving.
I don't know how much you know about the UK. So you know your Thanksgiving dinner, which is a huge event. It happens every Sunday in every household in the UK. So every Sunday we have a Sunday dinner, and it's either turkey or gammon or beef, and it has all those trimmings that you associate with it, right?
So I'm
We
moving to
always
the
have at
UK.
least seven
Sorry,
veg. Yeah.
Andy, we're gonna have to do this on different time zones.
That's right. Well, I'm going with you. I'm going with you, man.
Okay, fuck yeah, let's go.
All right, number three. This is going to be controversial, I think, but spending time with family.
You have to define family first. First family or removed family? The ones that you choose or the ones that you don't choose?
Well, there you
Oh,
go.
yeah, yeah.
There you go.
That's what it really is.
I think that's the problem with it, right?
I like to choose. I like to choose family. Um, I do like hanging out with my parents and stuff, but I feel like uh going to other Thanksgivings where it's a bunch of people you don't know or people that want to just talk about religion or politics the entire time, I'd rather stab my eyes out. So I'm gonna say properly rated for close, loving, good friends or family, and super overrated for big Thanksgivings with a bunch of creepy uncles.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with the properly rated. Apart from the people that want to stand around and talk about politics all day, I would rather shit in my hands and clap than talk to some stranger about politics that they've got no idea about. So, yeah, I'm going to go with properly rated.
Falling in love with Tony right now.
All right, that's all I've got. That's it. Yeah, I agree.
What's your answer? Oh,
Yeah,
all right.
properly rated. Yeah, I mean, I think that so on one hand it's great because it's we close down. So like we close a little bit early on Wednesday. We'll be closed Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's a nice long weekend. It feels like because here at this time of year, we've been sprinting for so long, with our busy season. Once you hit Thanksgiving, it typically starts to slow a little afterwards in certain areas. I mean, our embroidery doesn't, but screen printing side of things does. However, right now it's a little tricky, and for some reason it's not doing that. But Thanksgiving isn't here yet. So anyway, I think it's like everything together. It just feels like a very chill, and that's why I think you said it's one of your favorite holidays, is because it's that time of year. It's good food and also family. The right family feels good. The wrong family, we got to kick them out. Got to kick them out of the family.
Mhm.
Came out quickly. What do you guys do for Christmas dinner? Do you have a Christmas dinner?
Hmm?
Usually ham.
So our Christmas dinner is very, very similar to your Thanksgiving dinner. So it is a huge event. It's planned 3 days in advance. The turkey goes in, everything gets cooked to within an inch of its life. There are more veg you could possibly name, and usually one left in the microwave that you forgot about. But it's a huge family event for getting people around. So our Christmas lunch, our Christmas dinner is very similar to your Thanksgiving dinner.
That's like was it Christmas Carol or whatever, right? Where
Yeah,
Scrooge
similar,
gives him enough
Scrooge,
money
yeah.
to get a turkey.
It's still
or
like
whatever.
that in England now. Yeah, we still lean out the window and throw pennies at Tiny Tim.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Tony, so much for coming back on. This one was way more technical, and I love that shit. So I really appreciate you coming on and doing this, and I can't wait to see you Long Beach, right?
Yeah, I'll be at Long Beach. Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah.
Perfect. And Andy, good to see you as always.
Good to see you too, Dylan. Tony, it was the first time I got to chat with you. The last time I wasn't available. But I will also be in Long Beach, and we're having a happy hour, by the way, which we should talk about someday. It's on Thursday, right?
Thursday, yeah.
Oh, if you mention beer, I'm there.
It's free beer. Yeah. So
Okay, I'm definitely there.
Okay, cool.
You hit both of my requirements then.
And a turkey dinner.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks for having me on, guys. It's a pleasure. You guys are well respected across the pond, across the world, everywhere I go. So, for me, it's a great pleasure to be on the Church Show twice, even. So,
there you go. Yeah, you're in a small pool of the
in the small club.
Yeah. Thanks, Tony. Have a good day, man.
All right, thanks, guys. Bye.
See you, dude.